2020, my entire 2020, my entire world changed when on my social media I tweeted out something that said something like this: why are the media scaring everybody when this virus only affects the very old and those that are already ill? Well, I wasn't really prepared for the response that I got, because that comment came after I'd spoken to a couple of doctor friends of mine who had been privy to a lot of the information, a lot of the data that was around early on, and so I was speaking from what I thought was a position of some kind of authority. Now, the response to that was quite incredible, and it changed my entire life. Vaccines were being talked about at this point, and I'd already decided at that point that I wasn't going to be going anywhere near those vaccines, because common sense and a little bit of critical thinking told me that vaccines don't get produced in such a short period of time. How can you possibly have any long-term safety data in the space of 11 months? And how did 4 companies all come up with a working vaccine for a SARS-CoV-2 virus when they've just spent decades trying to find one for the common cold and couldn't do it? So all that stuff, obviously came along with a lot more abuse on social media. And as we entered 2021, when the jabs had been started rolling out, as I mentioned earlier, my life has revolved around sport. I watch a lot of sport. I don't watch a lot of television unless it's sport. And I'm watching a lot of sport, and I'm seeing a lot of sports people starting to collapse. Games were being stopped because of medical emergencies in the crowd, something that I'd never really witnessed in my time, 17 years as a professional footballer. So I thought, I need to do something about this, and I contacted the Professional Footballers Association, the Players' Union, and I voiced my concerns to them. They put me onto the doctor at the Football Association because they didn't want to deal with it. They shoved me off towards the doctor at the FA, said speak to her. So I did. I spoke to Charlotte Cowie, Dr. Charlotte Cowie at the FA, and had a conversation with her, and I voiced my concerns about what was happening, and she tried to palm me off with the usual response: oh, it's always happened, it just never has this much publicity normally. That's bullshit for a start. And I wasn't particularly pleased about that. So not a lot happened in terms of FIFPro, and I played golf with 2 current Premier League footballers in the summer, and both of them admitted to me that at their football clubs, 2 separate football clubs, that only about 50% of all their players were jabbed. Now, the media had been telling us that 95% of all Premier League players had been vaccinated, and these 2 guys at this club said to me it's probably 50-50. So I thought, well, that's pretty interesting. So with that in mind, I then started talking to Dr. Asim Malhotra and Dr. Claire Craig, and we came up with a plan. We were going to write to the Professional Footballers Association in this country to express our concerns, and we were going to get, the plan was, we were going to get a lot of ex-footballers to sign this letter, so it wasn't just coming from me, the mad conspiracy theorist. I texted about 100, just under 100 former footballers that I played with. And to my astonishment, 99% of them agreed to sign the letter. Not many of them spoke out publicly, but were privately concerned about what they were seeing as well. And that gave me a lot of heart. And there were some big names on this letter that went in. I won't name them all, but there were names the size of people like Kevin Keegan. So it wasn't just any odd footballer signing this. And it seemed to have made a difference at the PFA. So I organised with the doctor at the FA, Charlotte Cowie, to have a Zoom call in which Dr. Asim Malhotra, who had been looking at the data on the vaccines and was incredibly concerned about what he'd seen, and he wanted to voice his concerns to the doctor at the FA. So we organised a Zoom meeting. Now, the Zoom meeting was only allowed to take place on the proviso that we weren't allowed to talk about what was spoken about in that meeting. Now, why would the FA want to do that? I think we all know why. Now, I've stuck to that agreement to this day. But after the meeting, whenever I saw another young sports person collapse, I'd send an email with the press cutting to the doctor at the FA. And I'd just say, oh, look, there's another one. And I did this for a couple of months. And in November of 2022, I received the shock of my life. When in a reply to my email, the FA doctor casually told me in that email that, as you know, this is how she worded it. Thank you for letting me know. But as you know, which I didn't, professional footballers in England are no longer being encouraged to have any more vaccinations. Now, I don't know if anybody saw that press release from the FA or the Premier League, because I certainly didn't. She assumed that I knew, which I didn't, because nobody had said anything about it. They kept it a secret to themselves. But having read that, a real sense of relief washed over me, because I felt like we've had a small victory.